3 years ago, my sister-in-law had a difficult childbirth. The doctor asked my brother whether to save the mother or the baby. My brother fainted from shock, and my parents couldn't make a decision either. I spoke out of turn and told the doctor, save the mother. As a result, I became the murderer they accused me of being. They ate my food, drank my wine, and my mother even wanted my girlfriend to bear a child for my brother. On the day my brother threatened to jump again, I tried to save him only for him to shove me off the rooftop instead. When I opened my eyes, I had been reborn on the day my sister-in-law went into difficult labor. When my mother called me in a panic, her voice choked with tears. Matthew, your sister-in-law is having a difficult delivery and your brother fainted from the shock. Come quickly. The doctor says we can only save the mother or the baby. Will you hurry up and get here? In my past life, when I received my mother's call, I wished I could grow wings and fly to my family as fast as possible. My parents, already advanced in age, had been farming in our hometown all along. My brother dropped the ball at the critical moment. Just a little scare made him faint outright. With only the two of us brothers in the family, someone had to make the call on such a major matter. So when I rushed to the hospital, the doctor asked whether to save the mother or the baby. While my parents were also a loss, I gritted my teeth and told the doctor, save the mother. At the moment I said, save the mother, all I cared about was whether my sister-in-law could come out safely. Although my sister-in-law survived safely. But the days that followed were truly endless hell. First, my sister-in-law woke up and upon learning her son was gone, screamed hysterically that I was the murderer who killed her child. My brother also accused me, bitterly demanding to know what right I had to make decisions for him. In the end, they seized my house, lived off me, and forced me to hand over all my savings as compensation. My parents even secretly suggested to me that since my sister-in-law's pregnancy had damaged her health, why not have my girlfriend bear a child for my brother? After I sternly refused, my mother then set her sights on my house, demanding that I transfer the property title to my brother. My parents made a scene at my company, and I ended up losing my job. That day, my brother said he missed his son and threatened to jump off the building in my neighborhood. Helpless, I went up to persuade him, but unexpectedly, during the struggle, he pushed me off the rooftop with full force. After my death, my soul lingered. Only then did I finally understand why they were so fixated on my apartment. It turned out my older brother was a hopeless gambler who had racked up millions in debt. They had long since sold our ancestral home to pay off his debts. With no way out, they set their sights on my property. After accidentally seeing the accidental death insurance policy I de-purchased in my home, they plotted to kill me for the payout. This time around, I'll make them pay one by one. Mom, I'm stuck in traffic right now. I want to be able to get there soon. Sister-in-law, giving birth is important, but if brother fainted, just splash some cold water on him to wake him up. I put down my phone and continued eating hot pot with my colleagues. A colleague asked me if I was really going to work from home for a monthly salary of $1. I said, yes, I'm a key technical employee at the company, and most of my work can be done remotely. The bulk of my income comes from commissions anyway. The base salary amount is completely irrelevant. After finishing hot pot, I went back to sleep for a while. When I estimated the time was right, I finally grabbed my jacket and headed to the hospital. How could you only come now? Your nephew is gone. Were you stuck in traffic all night? You wretched child, why did it take you so long to get here? The moment my mother saw me, she rushed at me with a hoarse voice. Her eyes were swollen like goldfish. Clearly she'd been crying all night. My mother glared at me with gritted teeth, as if I were the one responsible for my nephew's death. I dodged slightly and calmly explained, Mom, there was heavy traffic yesterday. The road conditions were bad. Besides, I thought since my sister-in-law was giving birth, a grown man like me wouldn't be much help anyway, right? You're all at the hospital, so I'll head back for now. How could my nephew be gone? It's such a tragedy. Indeed, the child was innocent. My sister-in-law lay on the bed, her eyes vacant, as if he hadn't heard us speaking at all. My brother glared at me with hatred. Tell me, did you do it on purpose? Mom told you to come early, but you didn't show up until the next day. What came to watch the show? Hearing this, my mother made a pained face and slapped me twice. What exactly happened? How could the child be gone? The doctor asked whether to save the mother or the baby. Who made that decision? I touched a sore spot, suddenly raising my voice. Hearing this, my sister-in-law trembled instantly, then grabbed my brother and started hitting him. You heartless bastard, you actually chose to save the baby. You heartless bastard, why don't you just die? Give me back my son. Seeing her precious son being beaten, my mother rushed over to shield him. Oh no, don't hit him, don't hit him. You just gave birth, you shouldn't get so worked up. After listening for a while, I finally understood the whole story. My mother actually listened to me and really splashed cold water on my brother to wake him from his feigned faint. Left with no choice, my brother ultimately chose to save the child. Unfortunately, the baby had been in the womb too long and didn't survive after being delivered. Yet my sister-in-law, who was abandoned, miraculously emerged completely unharmed. Really, I shook my head. Brother, this is your fault. Sister-in-law went through so much to carry and give birth to your child. Besides, a day as husband and wife means 100 days of love. How could you sigh? I pushed open the door and sat down on one side of the hospital room entrance with my father taking the other. Inside, my sister-in-law, already riled up by my earlier provocation, saw her temper flare up again. The hospital room echoed with my brother's howls of pain and my mother's cries of "Io, Io," as she tried to break up the fight. I saw an unopened carton of pure milk inside the house. While they were fighting, I slipped in and grabbed one. Inserted the straw. Tastes good. I drank too late last night and went to bed late, so I was a bit hungry. By the time I finished the milk, I had taken a short nap. Finally, my mother, her hair a complete mess, called me and my father inside. The child is gone, and this is something no one wanted to happen. But what has done is done. The most important thing now is for Lucy to recover her health. Lucy is my sister-in-law. My mother instructed me Matthew's newly bought house has a great neighborhood environment. Let Lucy move in first. She'll relocate tomorrow. My sister-in-law glanced at my brother and finally smiled with satisfaction. The house had long been uninhabitable with debt collectors knocking on the door every day. She had enough of it. Matthew's house has just been renovated, but it doesn't have any furniture or appliances yet, right? My brother looked at me displeased. We'll go buy the furniture first later. By the way, is the natural gas connected? Otherwise, we'll have to buy liquefied gas. What a hassle. Oh, now you're looking down on it. It took me 5 years of work just to scrape together the down payment. Back then, I didn't have money for renovations, so I asked my mom if she could lend me some, but she said my older brother was getting married and couldn't help me. Thinking how hard life was for my elderly parents, I gritted my teeth and borrowed from friends. Instead, it took me 2 whole years to finally pay them all back. I originally thought I'd have to leave the newly renovated place empty for half a year before moving in. Little did I know they had already made plans for me early on. In my past life, I never realized they were already deep in the mire, trying to drag me down with them. Foolishly believing they were only staying temporarily, I furnished the place with all the appliances and furniture, only to let the wolf in through the door. Impossible to drive away. My kindness fed to the dogs, and in the end it cost me my life. I sneered inwardly and spoke with an expressionless face. I can't accommodate you there. The place was rented out a few days ago, and the contract is already signed. Well, my brother suddenly stood up. When was it rented out? How come I didn't know? Brother, that's my house, whether it's rented out or not. I don't need to report to you, do I? My older brother has been lazy and gluttonous since childhood, always dumping all the chores on me when we were kids. In my past life, I was used to it. After all, he was the elder brother, and I always respected him. But in this life, Matthew, is that any way to talk to your brother? My mother wasn't pleased and scolded. What's the point of renting out a perfectly good new house? You don't need the money that badly. Take the house back and say you're moving in yourself. I spread my hands, looking helpless. The lease is for 10 years, and I've already taken the money there. No, taking it back now. Matthew, what do you mean? Are you doing this on purpose? My brother was furious, convinced I was making excuses. I bet you never even rented out your place. Are you just trying to weasel out of this? Mom still hear my brother fawned over our mother. Mom, are you just going to stand by and watch him be so unfilial, completely disregarding your well-being? Matthew, you're not actually lying to Mom about the house never being rented out, are you? My mother looked at me suspiciously. Of course, Matthew reads a lot, so naturally, he is full of schemes. My sister-in-law chimed in. I think Matthew looks down on us. He is just afraid we'll come knocking on his door. My mother's expression grew increasingly grim. My father sat silently for a while, then sighed. Matthew, even though your mother and I didn't contribute money for your house, you're still our son. We're not trying to take your house. We just want your sister-in-law to stay for a few days. What's the problem? You want to even agree to that? I shook my head helplessly at them. It's really not that I don't want you to visit, but the house is genuinely rented out already. I showed them the contract. This is the contract I had my girlfriend sign last night under her cousin's name. Her 2 cousins are still in college and happen to be looking for a place, so I let them stay in the apartment for free. The condition was that they sign a 10-year lease with me. The contract was of course fake. In my previous life, they had thrown tantrums and refused to leave. Even calling the police didn't help. One was my father, the other, my mother, living in my place, seemed like their birthright to them. But in this life, if they think they can seize my house, they're dreaming. The rental contract made a full circle and ended up back in my hands. My mother's face darkened as she asked unwillingly, is it really rented out? I nodded, truer than true gold. The hospital room fell into silence again. If it really comes to that, you could give your brother the money from renting out your place, so he can lease another apartment. That could work too. My mother reluctantly offered another suggestion. My sister-in-law's eyes lit up. 10 years worth of rent. That's quite a sum, isn't it? The sound of their calculations was practically audible from 10,000 miles away. I borrowed a lot from friends for the renovation. When I was short on money, now that it's rented out, I just paid back the renovation costs. Want my money? Not a chance. Matthew, my brother, was about to rush at me to hit me. Mark, don't be impulsive. My mother grabbed my brother's arm. Matthew, how could it be such a coincidence? The place was rented out yesterday, and today the money is gone. Are you just making excuses for us? My sister-in-law rolled her eyes and turned over to lie down. Exactly, seems to me you two really raised an ungrateful wretch. I always said, what's the use of studying so much? Not only does it waste money, but after finally graduating ISNT, he's still only looking out for himself. TSK. My parents and my brother's expressions grew increasingly grim. Matthew, whether you want to handle this or not, you have to deal with it. Come up with a solution yourself. My mother issued her final ultimatum. In truth, I knew that in my previous life, they had already run out of places to go at this point. I sold the county house to pay off my brother's debts. Back in our hometown, debt collectors came every day demanding money, so they didn't dare return home at all. That's why they were desperate to pin the blame on me no matter what. So if I pretended to compromise, fine, then if you don't mind the inconvenience, you can move into the place I'm renting. My brother and sister-in-law exchanged a glance and quickly nodded. At the very least, they could save on rent, right? So my sister-in-law didn't even stay in hospital as my mom put it. The child asked on what's the point of staying in the hospital? Just go home and recuperate. A whole group of us took a taxi to the place I rented, a yet-to-be-demolished urban village, notoriously dirty, chaotic, and run down. The moment they got out of the car, my parents were nearly dumbstruck. You live here? Yes, I nodded. Back when I first graduated, I was broke and couldn't afford decent housing. What choice did I have but to squeeze into this place? Though I moved out of here a few years ago. This apartment now, I rented it specifically for them to live in. I opened the door to the one-room apartment with no partitions, warmly welcoming my family inside. The 20 square meter space had a toilet at the far end and a tiny balcony by the entrance. The urban village's densely packed buildings blocked sunlight, leaving the room without sunshine all day. The interior was damp and chilly. My mother, who had leg problems, shivered the moment she stepped in. My sister-in-law was even worse off, having just given birth. She was still in her postpartum confinement period. In such a cramped space meant for 5 or 6 people, she felt like dying. Matthew, you're really making us live here. Wrapped in a headscarf, my sister-in-law was the first to lose patience, letting out a delicate cough. I shrugged. No choice, I'm broke. This is the only place I can afford. My sister-in-law's lips twitched. I could tell she desperately wanted to turn and leave with dignity. Too bad she didn't even have enough money to rent a place. My sister-in-law shot my brother a fierce glare before reluctantly lying down on the bed. My brother hurried to attend to her with great care. Though my parents had been farmers all their lives, they'd long since bought an apartment in a county town. When had they ever lived in such a cramped space? But there was no other way. Circumstances forced their hand. If they couldn't accept it, they'd have to rent a place themselves. Between spending money and barely scraping by, they chose to face reality. Watching them finally move into the room I'd specially prepared, I allowed myself a smirk. Enjoy it to the fullest, my dear family. Just then my girlfriend called to ask how my sister-in-law was doing. In my past life, my sister-in-law harmed her own body, and my mother drugged my girlfriend, delusionally hoping she would bear a child for my brother. Fortunately, I arrived in time to save her. In this life, I don't want to involve my girlfriend too much in my affairs. I told her everything was fine and transferred her another 20,000 yuan, suggesting she go on a trip. This was my way of temporarily keeping her away from the mess that is my family. That night, my mother suddenly called. The rented apartment has a leaking roof with strange liquid dripping right above the bed. Within moments, the quilt was soaked and the stench was unbearable. The bathroom is also broken. Every time the toilet is used, an overpowering odor assaults the senses. They demanded I change their room for them, and preferably to a 3-bedroom unit, otherwise it wouldn't be spacious enough. I was savoring foie gras while sipping on fine wine. Mom, I've already given up my place for you all now. I'm stuck sleeping in my office workstation. Didn't I hand over all my salary from previous years to you? How about you rent a place for me too while you're at it? If that's not possible, just give me a single room next door. Would do. Hello, Mom. Hello. Looking at the busy tone on my phone, I sneered. I went through quite some trouble to find them such a wonderful house. Just the agent's fee alone cost me 3,000. How could I let them move out so easily? 9 early the next morning, the security guard from the new house called to say someone was trying to break into my new home. Tell me to come over right away. I pretended to be anxious and agreed. After hanging up, I prepared myself a hearty breakfast, ate it leisurely, and only then headed over to the new house. Sure enough, it was my mother and my brother. They actually came to my door and forced it open without a key. The security guard came to stop them, but they even beat him up. The hallway was littered with my girlfriend's clothes, jewelry, and suitcases. Among them was a brand new Chanel tweed skirt set worth 280,000, trampled like pickled cabbage. The skirt even had a hole torn in it. Mom, what are you doing? I pretended to be furious. That shabby place you rented is completely uninhabitable. We need to live here ourselves. Tell your tenant to move out. My mother retorted, hands on her hips. I've already taken their money. How can I just cancel the lease, or would I even get the money to refund them? I was relieved that I hadn't actually rented out the place. Otherwise, with my mother making such a scene, it would been a real mess to handle. The compensation for breaching the contract would be enough to ruin me. I don't care, the house is ours, and I'm going to live in it myself. No one can stop me. My mother continued to throw things out of the house, acting completely unreasonable. I sneered, "You're mistaken, Mom. This house is mine, not ours." "Yours is mine, ISNT, it," she said, as if stating the obvious. My brother looked at me with a sneer. "What an ungrateful wretch. Now that you bought a big house, you look down on us poor relatives. Keeping a nice house empty instead of letting us live there, renting it out for profit. Have you no conscience at all? Mom and Dad raised you for nothing, might as well have raised a dog." My brother's words grew increasingly outrageous. I just smiled. "You eat my food live in my house and still call me an ungrateful wretch." With that, I pulled out my phone and called the police. "What are you doing? I'm living in my own house, and you're calling the police, you unfilial son." When my mother saw me calling the police, her outstretched finger nearly poked my face. My brother rushed at me again, ready to hit me. This time, however, my mother didn't stop him, but silently stood by without saying a word. I glanced at the living room camera, enduring the first kick from my brother. Him striking first makes things much easier. "Dear brother, are you ready? I'm about to defend myself." I crack my knuckles as I approach him, all 10 joints popping loudly. Bang! My brother was sent flying by my punch, crashing into the cabinet with blood streaming from his nose. "I'll murder." My mother rushed over and hugged me, then reached out to scratch me. Seeing me restrained by my mother's hands, my brother bared his teeth and scrambled to his feet, launching another kick at me. Unfortunately, his aim was off, and the kick landed on my mother instead. My mother collapsed to the side with cries of ouch, ouch. I seized the chance to charge at him again, grabbing my brother by the collar and giving him a thorough lesson on how to behave. "Matthew, stop it." Of course, my mother couldn't stand seeing her precious son getting beaten by me, so she picked up a violent bear figurine and hurled it at my head. I instinctively ducked, and the violent bear shattered upon impact. My brother also staggered like a drunkard and collapsed to the ground. At that moment, the police happened to arrive. My brother kept complaining of dizziness, and my mother told me to call 120. I ignored her, so she had to take out her phone and make the call herself. Soon we were all taken to the police station together. Tim, my brother with gauze wrapped around his head, was vehemently denouncing me alongside my mother, their words flying like spittle. He made us live in a rundown urban village house with a broken toilet, yet he himself lives in a new apartment. What an ungrateful wretch. When my wife was giving birth, he didn't show up until the next day. Does he even see me as his elder brother? My child died because he brought bad luck. If he had arrived sooner, my child wouldn't have died. He is a murderer. And he hit me, beat me, half to death. Officer, you must arrest him, sentence him. He must be sentenced. My brother glared at me fiercely as if he wanted to tear me apart. My mother quickly added, "This is my own house, my own property. Who gave him the right to rent it out? What, this is my son's house. What S is mine, ISNT it. I gave him his life. What S wrong with me living in one of his houses?" The handling officers were so annoyed by my brother and my mother that they directly had the two taken to the interrogation room to educate them on the law. After a thorough legal education from the two police officers, my mother and brother finally understood what constitutes illegal trespassing, provoking trouble, and intentional assault. "Tell us exactly what happened." Another officer asked me. "I've already rented out the house, but my girlfriend's clothes and jewelry are still inside. The damaged clothes and jewelry are worth about over 300,000 yuan. He threw the first punch. I was just defending myself. I have security cameras at home, and I brought the memory card. You could check it." The police officer nodded and immediately verified the memory card I had brought. After confirming that my statement was truthful, the officer had me contact my girlfriend to discuss compensation for the damaged items. We were then taken back to the mediation room. This time, my mother and brother seemed to realize the gravity of the situation, their previous arrogance completely gone. The officer looked sternly at my brother. "You trespassed into someone's home and assaulted people that is already breaking the law. Additionally, you'll have to compensate for intentionally damaging high-value property." Then the officer turned to my mother. "Not only did you deliberately destroy others' property, but you're also suspected of intentional assault. You're going to be detained." "We're innocent, officer. Those things were thrown out by my younger son, and he is the one who broke everything and has nothing to do with us." My mother desperately tried to argue her case, but the officer immediately played the surveillance footage without another word. The video clearly showed it was her who threw out my girlfriend's clothes and jewelry, and she was also the one who hit my brother. Upon seeing the video, my mother instantly fell silent. Her previously arrogant and domineering demeanor vanished in an instant. They turned to beg for my forgiveness. Unfortunately, the damaged items belonged to my girlfriend, though she wasn't present. She insisted they should compensate at full price. They mumbled about having no money, but no money means detention or even a prison sentence. Left with no choice, they agreed to go back and figure something out. The police officer asked for my opinion, and of course, I said there was no problem. Putting them in jail wasn't my ultimate goal, because that would be letting them off too easily. 12 after my brother and mother returned home, they sent me a message. The stream of abusive messages never stopped during that time. They were calling me shameless for trying to extort them with those items. I didn't reply to any messages. What they didn't know was that I had indeed scammed them. While the Chanel outfit S receipt was genuine, the clothes themselves were high-quality replicas. It cost me less than 1,000 yuan. How could I bear to let them ruin my girlfriend's real clothes? But if I didn't make them suffer a heavy loss, they keep coveting my house. Just like my brother, a hopeless gambler who lost houses and money but kept it all hidden from me. In the end, they branded me as the murderer and seized everything I had. All just to pay off my brother's debts. In my past life, they always called me the murderer. If I hadn't meddled the child, might still have had a chance to live. Under the pretense that I killed their child, they made endless demands of me. As the old saying goes, the emperor favors his eldest son, while common folk dote on their youngest. But in our family, it's always been completely the opposite. My parents spoiled my older brother without any limits. I had to work part-time jobs just to pay for my university tuition. It was my parents' unconditional indulgence that led my brother to develop a gambling addiction. He grew up thinking someone would always bail him out no matter what he did. This time my parents simply couldn't cover for him anymore, so the whole family came crawling to me. 13, I waited for 3 days, but all they sent me were abusive messages, not a single penny. Still, this was exactly what I expected. So I called the police again. This time the officer showed up at their door, and both my mother and brother were detained for a week. After their release, they finally stopped trying to intimidate me, merely saying they'd figure something out, but it was just another stalling tactic. I understood if they wouldn't pay, then they'd pay in flesh. I pulled out my phone and called an old classmate back home. The county town back home was so small that finding out who my brother's creditors were couldn't have been easier than I sent over the address of the urban village. The next day my mom called me in tears, saying my brother had been beaten so badly that one of his legs was crippled. I suggested calling the police, but my mom hesitated and wouldn't let me. I put down the phone, consider that beating as collecting a bit of interest for my past life as suffering. My brother was beaten up and my sister-in-law is bedridden after a miscarriage. My parents are old, can't find work in the city, and don't have any particular skills. So they actually had the nerve to ask me for money again. I said I didn't have any, and they shamelessly told me to ask my girlfriend for it. They can afford clothes costing over 200,000. So what's the big deal giving us some living expenses? We're family after all. To hell with family. They're eyeing my house, expecting me to foot their bills and pay off their debts. Absolutely delusional, but then again, I overestimated their humanity. That day, a colleague from work texted me, saying my mom had gone to the company to make a scene. She threw tantrums, rolled on the ground, and ruined my reputation everywhere, accusing me of not only neglecting my parents, but also threatening to send them to the police, demanding the company fire a morally bankrupt scum like me. The company, utterly exasperated, finally called the police. They were taken to the station again. I received the message, smiled, and paid it no mind. They pulled the same stunt in my previous life, but now this trick doesn't work on me anymore. Matthew, we all believe in you. Handle your family matters and come back to work. Soon we're all waiting for you. Just say the word if you need any help. My colleague's words warmed my heart. As for my mother's side, after all the fuss and nearly getting detained, they had no choice but to back down. Huddled in my rented room, I spent my days trembling with fear. But the debt collectors kept coming to our door. Their methods grew increasingly violent. 14, my brother was beaten until his face swelled like a pig's head, making it nearly impossible for him to go outside. My sister-in-law, already depressed from losing her child, sank deeper into despair. Debt collectors have been harassing us non-stop these days, driving my sister-in-law nearly to the brink of insanity. That day their attitude softened once again. Finally, she couldn't hold it in any longer and told me about my brother being a hopeless gambler. Because the loan sharks warned that if they came back and still didn't get their money, they'd break one of his arms. This time my mother finally couldn't hold back and tearfully revealed the whole truth about my brother's gambling debts. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. In my previous life, they stubbornly refused to say a word, afraid I might be on guard. This time around, I finally forced them to speak up. But immediately after came the expected emotional blackmail. My mom called me back for dinner. The whole family was crammed into a rental apartment of just over 20 square meters. My brother lay moaning on the single sofa. My mom begged me to save my brother. He is your only brother. He has always doted on you since childhood. You can't just stand by and watch him die. We sold the old family home long ago. This time, somehow, they actually followed us here. If we can't come up with the money this time, your brother is done for. My mother kept rambling on, repeating the same words over and over again. The gist was simply to ask me to save my brother. In her words, the one who had bullied me since childhood and made me do all the heavy labor didn't seem like my own flesh and blood. My brother also swore to me that he would change. If only I would save him this once. Actually, if in my past life from the very beginning. They had been completely honest with me and told me my brother had gambling debts. I would have been angry, but I certainly wouldn't have stood by and done nothing. Yet they chose to keep it from me, then randomly pinned a false accusation on me resorting to extortion and plunder. Yes, in my past life, I was emotionally manipulated. I was foolish. Step by step, I yielded ground only to be met with their escalating demands. 15. This lifetime is no different. They're still scheming to take my house. Just because I took precautions in advance, they no longer dared to covet my house. But what could be salvaged by saying it now? The harm had already been done. And I knew that even if I sold my house, it still wouldn't be enough to pay off all his gambling debts. They would still kill me without hesitation, just like in my previous life. So I refused without a second thought. Little brother, you have a stable job. You can get a credit card or take out a loan. If that doesn't work, just get your girlfriend to give me the money. One of her outfits costs over 200,000 yuan. What I'm asking for is just the price of a few of her clothes. My brother screamed hysterically, since you've already slept with her ISN, her money, make her hand over the cash. Seeing this, my mother moved to grab me again. Matthew, our whole family is about to be ruined. If you don't help us, you're forcing us to die. I watched them quietly. You made me apply for credit cards, take out loans, but where's the money? You took it all, and now I have to pay it back. How could there be such shameless people in this world? My sister-in-law sobbed beside me. We'll pay it back. You can't just stand by and watch us die. Money, ISNT, more important than family. My mother nodded in agreement, fully supporting their words. Money is just worldly possessions. Family bonds are what truly matter. She pleaded earnestly, brother. ISNT, that what brothers are for helping each other. Besides, your brother just lost his child and is already suffering enough. Can you really bear to see your brother driven to death by debt collectors? 16. How can you be so heartless? My mother wailed incessantly, trying to use tears as a tactic to pressure me into submission. Or you could just sell the house instead. After all, you're still young and can earn it back quickly. My sister-in-law continued offering suggestions. I froze for a moment. Well, thank you so much. You really can't just abandon your brother. My mother started wailing again. I couldn't help but spring to my feet. I flatly refused their proposal to make me the scapegoat. My mother still wouldn't let it go. My father said he raised me for nothing. My brother and sister-in-law cursed me for being heartless. But what they didn't know was in my previous life. The conscientious me had long been killed by them. I stepped out of the rental apartment and stood in the cold wind downstairs for a while. Suddenly realizing I'd forgotten my cigarettes, I was about to go back upstairs when I heard my mother and brother's voices. His girlfriend is rich. As long as you sleep with her, her money will be yours. That was my mother's voice. If you can get her pregnant, her family's gold and silver mountains fall right into your pocket. Hearing this, my blood boiled and I nearly lost my balance. But ISNT, she traveling besides, I don't even have the chance. My brother sounded frustrated. Find an opportunity later to have Matthew bring her home. Say it's to meet the parents. You go buy some medicine, make sure she gets pregnant. Then we'll film a video, TSK, 1T, she'd be completely in your grasp for life, my mother said with exasperation. I stood there for a moment, then left without a sound. I knew it was time to put an end to this matter. I can't drag my girlfriend into this. 17. After returning, I anonymously sent a message to the creditors saying that my brother and his family were planning to flee. The next day, my brother had one leg broken and 2 fingers chopped off. My mother texted me again. She said she made my favorite braised pork with preserved vegetables, asking if I wanted to come home for dinner. Braised pork with preserved vegetables, my favorite dish in my past life. In my previous life, it was this very dish my mother used to lure my utterly disappointed self back home. This time, even the script was identical to when she tricked me into returning in my last life. I knew that by this time, they must have already seen the accidental death insurance policy I had deliberately placed on the bedside table in the rented apartment. They made the same decision as in my previous life to kill me. The insurance payout will be used to pay off my older brother's gambling debts. After reading my mother's message, I remained silent for a long time before replying. Alright, I'll come back tomorrow. At this moment, my heart is as calm as still water. I open the surveillance feed on my phone. The hidden pinhole camera captures my brother, his right leg, encased in a thick plaster cast, sprawled across most of the bed like a worm. The others huddle together in a circle, and sure enough, my accidental insurance policy lies on a coffee table. Over 7 million, Mom. We're rich, my sister-in-law's eyes gleamed with greed. You'd better give me a grandson soon, or don't even think about getting a single cent. My mother tucked away the insurance policy as if the millions were already in her hands. Let us buy another apartment in the city. Urban living is still better. My father rolled a handmade cigarette and began puffing away. 18. The next day, I returned to the urban village, right on schedule. 19. My mother had already prepared the meal. On the table, a dish of braised pork with preserved vegetables piled high with fatty meat sat carelessly in the center. My mother hurriedly served me rice and kept adding dishes to my bowl. My brother also chimed in stiffly. Your favorite dish, Mom. Spent all morning making it. Eat up. What they didn't know was that my favorite braised pork belly with preserved vegetables required 3-layer meat with half fat and half lean. Not this greasy, utterly unappetizing lump of fat on the table. I put down my chopsticks. There was no way I'd dare eat it. But their intention wasn't really to invite me back for a meal anyway, so they didn't press the matter. I had just picked up my bowl when my brother started crying about how miserable his life was. With the child gone, life had lost all meaning. And here, I was his own brother, not even caring about him. He said that at 20 life wasn't worth living anyway, might as well be dead. With that, he ran out the door, threatening to jump off the building. My parents hesitated for a moment before chasing after him. Though they knew it was just an act, they must have feared my brother might actually do something reckless. Just as they expected, I rushed into the hallway, but then stopped dead in my tracks. My sister-in-law hesitated and came out when she saw I wasn't chasing after her. She looked at me, why aren't you going? I stared back at her. Do you know how your child really died? Her pupils trembled slightly as she stared at me, shaking. I chuckled lightly. It must have been excruciatingly painful giving birth and there risking your life, wasn't it? Didn't you say many times how painful childbirth was and that you wanted a C-section? Too bad my mother and brother thought a C-section was too expensive. While you were giving it your all to bring the child into this world, they were outside reprimanding the doctors. What's the big deal about women giving birth? Others can have natural deliveries. Why can't you? Dr. Rin refused to sign the surgery consent form. No matter what he insisted, the doctor only wanted a C-section to make more money. What a pity my nephew could have. The more I spoke, the wider my sister-in-law's eyes grew. Tears kept falling uncontrollably. I imagined the pain of losing a child, that agony of carrying a baby for 10 arduous months, filled with anticipation only to lose it suddenly. No one could understand this profound grief more deeply than a mother herself. If the child had truly been lost due to an accident, it might have been bearable, but to lose a child simply because the husband and mother-in-law refused to sign the consent form for a cesarean section, that was unbearable. I don't think any mother could accept this. I'll kill you, my sister-in-law turned around and stormed up to the rooftop in a rage. I lit a cigarette where I stood. Only then did I leisurely make my way up. By the time I reached the rooftop, I happened to see the two of them locked in a struggle, plummeting from the building. My sister-in-law was lucky enough to grab the edge of the roof and was pulled up by my parents. But my brother fell. I took out my phone to call 120 and the police. At 22, my brother was luckier than me. He didn't die, but he was also more unfortunate. The rooftop of this urban village wasn't high, only 5 stories. But he suffered multiple fractures all over his body for the rest of his life. He could only live in a wheelchair. In my previous life, at least I got a quick end. But in this life of his, he'll have to endure the torment of being bedridden with full awareness. My parents were heartbroken with grief. The surgery costs were exorbitant. My parents simply couldn't afford it. They demanded I take responsibility for my brother's medical expenses. My parents made a scene at my company, and I lost my job. Because of me, recorded everything from their discussions about how to kill me to the distribution of my assets and the use of compensation money after my death. Every single incident, every detail captured crystal clear. My parents froze, then fell silent. I handed the evidence to the police. 23, during this time, my mother and father begged me, desperately pleading for me to spare them. They said, your brother is ruined. If we go to prison too, he won't survive the rest of his life. But I didn't soften my heart. Even in this lifetime, they haven't caused me any real harm yet. But I couldn't bring myself to forgive them on behalf of my past self. Later, they were taken away by the police. At first, they stubbornly refused to admit their attempted murder, clinging to their denial. But my sister-in-law hated them to the core. She spilled everything, how they had schemed to seize my house, and how they had plotted to push me down the stairs to inherit my assets, and my sister-in-law's words, that whole family was nothing but demons. Though my sister-in-law ended up being convicted as an accomplice, she didn't seem to regret it at all. They were eventually sentenced to several years. As for what happened to my brother afterward, I never bothered to find out. For me, the familial bond with them ended the moment I was reborn. The end.